Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Samantha DeComble, co-founder and CEO of Fitness Genes. At Fitness Genes, our aim has always been to personalise your health and fitness advice, taking account of your unique genetic code to understand your particular predispositions and risks, and match you to scientifically validated actions that will have maximum impact for you personally. Today, I'm going to be introducing you to something we've been working on behind the scenes at Fitness Genes, our brand new AI-powered health system, Basel. Now, one of the challenges we've always found at Fitness Genes, and it's an industry-wide challenge, I think, is that there's a huge amount of data out there that's available to us. Not to mention numerous diets, supplements, different types of health food that are being promoted to us as being good for our health and good for our longevity. Now, of course, we can't follow every piece of advice that's available to us. So the challenge then is to decide which of these numerous options is going to work best for us. That's what we've designed Basel to do, to help cut through the noise and direct you to the foods, supplements, and lifestyle changes that can make the biggest difference for you personally, based on your unique biology. So I'm delighted to be joined today by two special guests to celebrate the launch of Basel. Our Chief Scientific Officer and my fellow co-founder, Dr. Stuart Grice, who's been leading the development of Basel, and David Lloyds, tennis star and founder of the David Lloyd Health Club empire, who will be discovering his Basel results today for the first time. Thank you for joining me both today. David, we met earlier this year and you took the Fitness Genes health test at the time. What was your response when you first received your Fitness Genes results?
Sort of a bit of both, really. Some I knew and some I didn't know. And as you know, with Stuart and yourself, we've been talking a long time, and I think it's very, very important to learn these things. And so, yeah, some came as a shock and some didn't. So now I'm trying to put it right and taking on the report I had. You know, it's very interesting and very. The thing is, it's very. How should I say? It is very important to look at it, and it's so accurate, and it does really give you something you can do. The training, the food supplements, changing your diet, all these things you read about it, but now you got it on. You know, now you got a report saying you got to do it. Very important.
Was there anything in there in particular that surprised you? Any results that sort of stood out for you?
Not really. I mean, I knew I had slightly high cholesterol because of various things that I've had with, with being a professional tennis player for so many years and putting your body through all these things and that and that. So that was a little high. I have a couple of problems with some of the things that have been recommended. For example, I can't really eat nuts or seeds because I've got diverticulitis, which is a thing so I have to be careful. But the other thing as I think you know, that I love cooking. So to add a little bit of extra turmeric, which I, for some reason was missing, is easy to do and it's very tasty. So it was very good for me because as I say, I cook every night. So it's easy to add these. I've always eaten a lot of fruit anyway. So yeah, I mean, I was pretty active anyway, so I'm going to be, I'm doing more swimming and things like that. So it came a little bit of a shock that I probably wasn't doing enough exercise because I felt I was.
Mm. Yeah, and is it the sort of the type of exercise as well, David, in terms of the type of activities you were, as you
Yeah,
said, you're doing some swimming, and did you do
yeah.
much resistance training at the time? Is that something that's part of your routine?
Well, it was, and it still is to a degree. But again, I've been hampered by various things. I've got two metal hips and one metal
Mm.
knee, and a pacemaker. And so yeah, but yes, yeah, you know, I used to work out every single day. So whatever I do, and the reason I've got a pacemaker is not because my heart's bad, it's because my pulse rate is so slow. My pulse rate when I was a professional tennis player was only 42 resting pulse, which is very low. And of course, now I'm not doing enough exercise and jumping up and down to create the blood flow. So I kept fainting. And so the pacemaker is there to make sure the pulse now is set at actually, it's still low, it's set at 55. Um, and so it's all come in what, but I've always been great believer in the testing. We did it in a small way when we had our young kids. Tim Henman came out of my squad. I found him when he was 9, and we were way in front of our time because tennis in those days, because of the very fast ball and playing on very fast courts, you had to be tall. You had to be over 6 foot to have a chance. That game, that thank goodness that's changed, but that's what it was. So when we found these young kids, we were way in front of our time. This is 50 years ago, nearly 45 years ago. We tested them for height. We did all the genetic background on everything. We were way in front, and that gave us a lot of information that nowadays is common in every single sport. They have, dietitians, they have this, measuring that, and but this was 45 years ago, and so I'm a great believer in it.
Cool, thanks. And I think you've highlighted something really interesting and important there, David, which is the need to really tailor the results to the individual, because you've mentioned an example of a particular condition, which means that you can't have nuts and seeds, which is obviously something that's very frequently recommended as a sort of good protein source, and also injuries that can impact your ability to do particular exercises. And perhaps this is a good point actually to bring Stuart in now, because Stuart, as we've just said in the introduction, you are the scientific mastermind behind Basel and the development of Basel. And I know that this is one of the factors that was taken into consideration in terms of being able to better target information to the individual and be able to not just give them data, but to actually interpret that data in a way which is useful for them.
Sure.
Great.
That's a great intro. So let me just get up.
While you're getting that up, Stuart, I've got a quick question for you just to get kicked off, actually, which is, what does Basel stand for? So why Basel?
So yeah, Basel, interesting one. Well, there's the connotation for the Mediterranean diet. Basel is a food component, so we like the idea of Basel there. The actual acronym is the Biological Assessment System for Improving Longevity. So that's really what this is about. So obviously we're talking about all these different disease areas, but ultimately it's about longevity. That's what we're dealing in.
I thought it was 40 Towers.
So there's
gives away your age, doesn't it?
The system is definitely not faulty. I'll be sure. But actually,
no, I know. I mean,
but there's
you
also
and
another...
sorry to interrupt. You and I had lots of chats, and I said, which is fantastic for you to do it, that there's no point in getting the results if you can't link it to something specifically for each person. And I likened it to my young kids. When my young kids were eating, I said, look, can you look at how they're all eating? And they said, oh, they're all eating differently. They're all holding it. Yeah. I said, that's right, because you are different. Therefore, you have to make sure you bespoke it. So there's no point in me knowing that I want this, that, and the other. I want someone like Stuart and his Basel to tell me specifically what I need to do. It's very important.
Exactly. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully you can all see it. So this is where we've started, and I think this is a very important point. I guess if you're thinking about longevity and health at the moment, you've got kind of two ends of the spectrum. You've got tons of data, lots of information, lots of different testing, be it genetic, microbiome, blood, and then the other end of the spectrum are the people that say, take this one packet and all your dreams will be made. You know, these sort of supplements that are being offered at the moment. And obviously one is more factually correct, where the data-driven format. However, people need the ability to navigate the information, understand what's best for them. So we have been very guilty in the past at Fitness Genes of creating a lot of information. And David, I'm sure you've seen this. There were 185 different genetic traits with lifestyle data and blood data that drives, and you've got to spend time in interrogating it. And then also the context of how you interpret that data. So if you're interested in muscle building or longevity or weight loss, actually the biological information actually changes the way you'll build the models. So it's very, very difficult for the layperson or even someone with a basic scientific education to interrogate it. And this is something we've needed to solve for a long time, and that's why we built Basel. So let's now come to what is the Basel dashboard. So using all the information in our system, we've focused on longevity and tried to understand and communicate what the key areas for longevity are. So this is your dashboard. So today we're just going to go through your key impact areas and then look at our supplements ranking system specifically for longevity. a couple of little points to highlight as well. If you look down the bottom, there's the lifestyle component. Now, genetics and lifestyle interplay both, synergistically and sometimes antagonistically. So this system is not just based on genetics, but it can be based on your blood data, your microbiome data as we release this, and different forms of diagnostic as we go forward. So really, this is taking together all the different data types to drive the system. The second point we know, we're going to talk through supplements today, but supplements are no near the be all and end all. So actually this information can be telling you what diagnostics you need to be looking at first. So you've mentioned LDL as a prime example. They're genetic risk factors that can drive your need potentially early in life to do diagnostic tests, blood tests associated with cardiovascular health. And then of course there are all your habits, the things you add on to what you eat and how you're testing yourself that will help your longevity journey be more targeted. And again, thinking about what you mentioned with nuts, this system now enables you to put like diet types, if you're vegan, if you have certain allergies, into the system, so it actually can start to order that information. So let's just come back to the key impact area first. So what we've got here, we've distilled it down to 8 factors. And for you, your top 3 factors are vascular aging, which is good to know. Well, not good to know, but you've mentioned your LDL, and that's something that we see in the signal. Metabolic aging and cellular aging. And I'm just going to click onto the Explore tab now. So if you remember our 185 traits that are drawn into the system, these are now placed under these different categories. So I'm just going to scroll down. So you've got your vascular aging, metabolic aging, cellular aging as your 3 priorities. Then you've got inflammation, which is inflammation, how inflammation impacts your body and how it ages. Musculoskeletal, so bone and muscular aging. Then your organs, so how your gut interplays with your longevity process, and other organs like liver, and then toxins and infections, which are more acute but still have an impact, and then brain aging. So I guess what we've got here is we've talked about what your focuses are, but your brain aging profile is very good. Looking at all the traits we have at the moment, that's very promising. So what we're going to do is to scroll up to the top. So really what we see now, instead of having to go through 185 plus traits to understand actually vascular aging is important, we've now given you your priorities of vascular, metabolic, and then cellular. Now, obviously, where does this information come from? So I'm just going to click on the Explore button. It's derived from all the traits you've got in your Fitness Genes system and new ones, including genetic and lifestyle traits that you'll be presented with. So there's probably some traits here that you've read associated with homocysteine, blood triglycerides, and everything else. We are also building in AI systems that actually can explain the relevance of each trait to each particular impact area, so vascular aging. So we have an overview of what it's about, and then it can link you to your information. So really what this is instead of having to spend 3 or 4 days, David, as you probably did, going through trait by trait, it highlights the priorities, where the risks or the probabilities. And remember, longevity and predicting long-term health is ranking probabilities. This is not destinies. This is about understanding where to put your effort, or where to keep an eye, or which supplements to take, or which blood test should I be doing every 6 months as opposed to every 12 months. So it really gives you the ability to navigate what you should be doing.
Just to ask a quick question. So you've identified there the top 3 priorities of David, and you mentioned there that we've been using AI in order to create some of the narrative to explain the results in an easily digestible formats. Is our data safe? I guess one of the concerns a lot of people have is with the sharing of data within AI systems. And we do have customers that come to us. They tell us that they've been putting their data into systems like ChatGPT, which is something that we don't necessarily advise they do. They're not well known at the moment for being particularly effective when it comes to more clinical advice. What would you say about the way we're using AI in our system?
So the AI is there to help you understand and communicate the information. All the results, all the calculations sit within Fitness Genes and are not shared with any third party. All the calculations are done in-house and are protected and are firewalled, basically. So it's not like we're taking, I've got David Lloyd's risk profile, we're popping that into some AI system and then it's given our results. No, we produce all of the results and then we have a structure of terminology that can then be used as prompts to then derive the correct information, or should I say, to disseminate the information better. So it's really about, okay, well, we've got our core component of predictability, then we go into the health marketplace and all the terms that are associated with what people talk about, and then we can use that to sculpt our narratives. And if this is quite important, because when you talk targeting different social economic groups, eventually different groups of people who are young, people that are old, you know, that's where the power comes in. But in terms of the core calculations and importantly the personal data, that is going nowhere near the AI systems.
Okay, great, that's good to know.
So I'm going to click back. Yeah. So as we said, so we've got these impact factors. The top three we've provided as vascular, metabolic, and cellular, and we're building a holistic system that instead of what we've done in the past, where you've got to read the traits and go, okay, that seems to be good for me, that's not. We've combined all the data together to rank the things you need to be doing. And today we're going to take you through. We're launching this over the next few weeks, the supplement ranking system. So here we have 6 high ranked supplements for you, and we can tell you what your top one is beta glucans. There's another 38 supplements. So this draws all the supplement information. So this is again what efficacy has been proven against the particular health areas that we're ranking you against. Also, what's the size of effect as well, so you can have something that you're very confident in, you know, lots of meta-analysis, lots of studies, but actually only has a small effect. So we use this information to then rank what are your top supplements. So drum roll. So here we are. So I'm just going to take you through the page first and then we'll go back to the top.
Can I ask, sorry Stuart, sorry to interrupt again, can I ask David, just to bring David in for a moment. David, do you take any supplements at the moment, or do you generally sort of, are you a whole foods sort of approach?
I don't take any at the moment because I like, you know, like this is why when we first met, this seems all those years ago, and it wasn't years ago, but yeah, I'm here in America, and every single night, in the day as well, but in night mainly, every other advert is a drug, is a pill, and I'm thinking, well, how do I know? I mean, you know, I could take them all. So you know, to be able to now narrow it down to a specific, nearly a specific, and I'm sure in future there will be a specific, but that will allow me to do it. But at the moment, you know, I don't know what I'm taking. I don't know if it's going to be good. So what you're going to tell me now will be very interesting, and I will look at taking it because I know it's specific to me. It isn't for Joe Blogs down the road or someone who sat in the TV and watched some advert on how to lower blood pressure. I don't buy that. So this is very important. So to answer your question, I take blood thinners and statins for my cholesterol, and I take beta blockers for my pacemaker, and that's it.
Cool.
That's
Thank
really
you. Thank you.
Because part of this, but because at the moment things like statins and those other drugs sometimes don't benefit people, and actually some of the genetics is starting to show that now. So we're talking about supplements in the moment, but in the long term, actually recommending drug profiles or health profiles, medical profiles could be done from this data set. We're particularly focusing on nutraceuticals at the minute, so supplements. Now, of course, you can have negative effects or adverse effects with supplements and drugs, so we're actually going to be building that in where it flags, and I'll show you some of the things in a minute where against the supplements will flag where there's problems. But just to sort of highlight this page, so here we've got your top 6 supplements, which we'll talk through in a minute. But what we do now is this is where the AI comes in. It communicates truly why we're recommending this to you based on the prompts for our system. And again, I think this highlights your point of these are all the supplements that in some way or other have been linked to longevity. Now, here's one, that nicotinamide riboside. It's all over the media. The Instagram is selling it to me every couple of hours, and there is some positive basic data on it, but it's just not as impactful as some of the other supplements that are actually impacting holistically your biology, your cardiovascular health, those other components, maybe your brain health in certain instances, which will have the biggest effects for you. So again, I won't bore you, but yeah, this is probably what your advert schedule looks like in America. So here we have all the different sort of supplements. But anyway, let's go back to your top ones. So what we've got here, I'm going to go through one by one. So thinking about at the moment, you had your cardiovascular, so your vascular risk, you had your metabolic risk, and you had your risk around cellular aging, so oxidative stress. So first we have the beta glucans. A lot of evidence about how this impacts LPL levels, triglycerides, LDL levels, also glucose processing. Your methylated B vitamins, this is impacting your homocysteine, another vascular risk factor, but actually within the cellular component, there were some variants associated with how DNA repair and just understanding your biology around DNA repair, that will support that. The psyllium husk, another very well studied supplement associated with reducing LDL. I know, Sam, you've actually had high raised LDL and you took psyllium and some of these other components and you've actually seen a very positive effect. And I think you did a small family study, didn't you, where you took a number of the supplements that she was recommended and it reduced her LDL levels. Now you got berberine.
It's really interesting, actually. Sorry, Stuart. It's really interesting to see both beta glucan and psyllium husk on David's profile, particularly given what he said at the start around one of the concerns around high cholesterol levels and raised LDL. Because I had a similar, from a cardiovascular perspective, it's one of my, I guess, family history sort of perspectives. My grandfather had it, my mum's had it. We definitely have a genetic risk. I take psyllium husk supplements. Obviously, this is, we're talking about supplements here, but as Stuart says, a lot of this can be gained through food as well. So one of the things we'll be building into the system is to also look at the whole food ingredients. So thinking about beta glucan in particular, I have oat bran with my porridge in the morning for breakfast, and that's really rich in beta glucan. So I don't take a beta glucan supplement, but I have oat bran for breakfast at least 5 days a week, and that's part of the way that I'm getting my dose of the appropriate dose of beta glucan to support my cardiovascular health. But it's really interesting, actually, to say, David, to hear you say that was a sort of a consideration, an issue for you, and in your top 6 supplements, 2 of them there absolutely are having an impact on cholesterol levels. So it's good to see it working, Stu.
Good.
It's great. And so what you had is so you had your vascular risk and then your metabolic risk. Now, insulin resistance and insulin dysfunction actually will exacerbate cardiovascular risks. So berberine a very good one. Now, if you are female and of childbearing age, this will be down ranked potentially because it can have issues if you're lactating or if you're pregnant. So again, we're going to start adding in a lot, and I'll show you a couple in a minute where there's actually flags where you just need to be careful with supplements. So this is very much impacting your insulin function, which will support your metabolic aging, but also your vascular aging at the same time. And then what generally will crop up with most people, and we'll talk about this, so omega-3 and vitamin D will always be near the top for people. They're actually, the internet will tell you otherwise, but they're the only 2 supplements and deficiencies have been shown will have an impact on the biological clocks that people test. So they're really the only bona fide supplements that have shown to impact aging as a classical measure through methylation arrays and other things. But we know aging to be a more broad issue. But omega-3 will always be there in terms of brain health, cardiovascular health, metabolic health. It is a great supplement to take. So wonderful one. And then you had within your cellular aging, there's a little bit of risk around inflammation. So with cardiovascular issues, you get high LDL, but the LDL per se is not causing the problem. It's when you get it modified, it gets oxidized, and then it builds up on the sides of the arteries, and the inflammatory processes that then drive the cardiovascular events. So having something that reduces inflammation and oxidative stress is really important. So you get some antioxidants. So sulforaphane is a very good, actually it's a derivative from broccoli. So it's actually, that's the component that people say broccoli reduces cancer. That's the component I'm talking about. But for here, it's very much about reducing the inflammatory processes. So what you've got here, taking the evaluated analysis that we've done, is these supplements that are going to be impacting best your vascular health, your metabolic health that underpins that, but then also your cellular health in terms of reducing oxygen-free radicals, so increasing your antioxidants, and also reducing inflammation. and I will stop talking in a minute, Sam, but 2 more bits to do. There are other supplements that actually can have impact. So for vascular health, niacin's a good example. So if we scroll down here, we have niacin, but because of your variants associated with insulin spike and insulin secreting, we've actually downranked that because niacin can have some negative impact. So for your analysis, we have kind of just pulled that out your top list for that reason. The same with inositol. You have a little bit of increased gut inflammatory risk. Now, you know, that's something we always need to manage. So for inositol, it's been pulled down because of these reasons. So this is not just about putting all the supplements out there and saying these are the best. It's actually looking at the trade-offs between the supplements as well. And just one final little thing, that if, for example, you're interested in inflammation or brain health and anything else, you can actually select. So, for example, say actually, I know I'm looking good in my analysis, but I want to improve my brain health. We can just look at your top brain aging supplements as well. So again, omega-3, curcumin, ergothioneine, and then you've got your other ones that are associated with impacting brain health too. So I think that's where we'll leave it at the moment. Just a few more bits. We're going to put more functionality in this. So if you're taking stuff, if you want to add it to plan, these are things that are going to come in the future. You can see a buy button at the moment. We are not selling our own supplements. What we're going to do is look in the marketplace for the best supplements that fulfill the requirements, best quality, best dosage, everything else. So again, really people are going to want to be drawn back to the quality ingredients and supplements and also foods as well. Because ultimately, and I'll finish on this page again, it's about understanding your key impact areas. We can use this to rank supplements, identify the supplements, but more importantly, it's about foods and habits at the same time, and also knowing which diagnostic tests potentially you should be taking in the future. And then, of course, the diagnostic test can feed back into the system. That will put more intelligence into the system, and then that can adjust your results. So as new discoveries, new genetic variants, new diagnostic data goes to this system, it will change with you, and it will give you a better understanding as your biology when you age.
And I guess that's a good thing to clarify, Stu, which is around the diagnostics. So, for example, if someone comes to us and they have a blood test that tells us that they have a particular deficiency for a particular vitamin, for example, D3, very common vitamin D deficiency or insufficiency in the Western world, then that would automatically make their top list. That's correct.
Exactly. Now, also, so we've got some... Sorry, David.
Is there a way of giving me personally, a much more detailed food, what I could eat in food rather than taking something? So, for example, omega-3. What is the number one thing I can eat that will give me omega-3?
For sure. With that's part of. So within the habits, there's going to be foods and habits, and we're going to. And it's
a lot of people don't like to take pills. A lot of people don't like to take pills. They like to do the food. So, and if you can, I mean, I think it's fantastic. I mean, it's exactly what people need. You are bespoking a longevity package, which is exactly what people want, and they believe in it.
So I think on the food. So really, we see there's kind of the 4 components: just your habits and what you do. And again, some of those may be the saunas or the plunge pools that everyone's advertising at the moment, but generally the habits are, the things you can add to your day. Is it the 10 squats? Is it your bench presses? Is it your cognitive behavioral therapy? It's how you deal with stress. Then there's the food component of that, which is, again, what we've got there is a list of supplements, but in reality, 50% of them you can get through food. So, omega-3 is a prime example, your oily fish, everything else. For vegetarians, you'll go for the algal forms because they have the right sort of active forms of the omega-3s. And then, the fibers you can get through food as well. So it'll be deriving the food list from that as well. And then ultimately, we think it's really important in pinpointing people to the right diagnostics, because that's how you're going to catch things early as well, because we're going to age and things are going to go wrong eventually. The idea that we're going to be living to 200, 300, for me personally, I think is not a good reflection of how our biology really works, but actually being able to do the things that are going to mitigate your key health risks. So for you, vascular, metabolic and cellular, but also then to look for things early when they're going to change and then do the right things with the knowledge of your genetics behind it, which can actually enable you to understand your conditions better. Because again, diabetes is not just one disease, it's many. Vascular conditions are not one disease, there are many. So really pinpointing the things to do to support your health journey. And for you as well, David, with obviously you're on medications at the moment, to understand and support that journey with your medications as well.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, as you know, we're doing these very exciting new projects all over the well, just trying to get them all over the world. And for example, as you know, we've been talking, so it will be very good for me with a fantastic food and beverage outlet to be able to actually, from the DNA background of the person, prepare his food. And so that is that, you know, not just for losing weight. I mean, everyone does those, but this is more than losing weight. This is for your health. So it opens up another, from a business point of view and from a doing good, to be able to do that.
And again, I think you've highlighted a really important point there, David, because a common goal has been weight loss, and weight loss is linked to lots of different morbidities. And in terms of that as a goal, it's great. But for what a lot of people are looking for now, it's actually more holistic in terms of they want to live longer, healthier lives. They want to ensure it's the health span argument. So it's not just about expanding lifespan, it's about expanding the health span as well, so we stay as fit and healthy as we can right up until the last of our days. And that is something that's essentially at the heart of what we want to do. We want to be able to match people to those products, services, the things that are going to work best for them. And it's not about weight loss, it's not necessarily about muscle build or all of the other categories that we've covered in the past, which are great short-term goals a lot of the time to really help people focus. We're really looking at changing somebody's habits over a lifetime and starting to think, right, what are the things for me? As you said, when I go and I've got this choice of the menu and there's lots of things that I like the look of on here, which are the things that are going to have the greatest impact on my health ultimately in the long term? And for yourself, it sounds like it might be a sort of bit of salmon and a bit of broccoli on the plate somewhere there, and probably lots of
Absolutely.
other.
Yeah.
But that's exactly it. Yeah.
That's probably your number one meal.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, but for restaurants, you can put on the menu for someone with this, that, and the other. This is what you should be eating. I mean, they do all the calorie counts. I've done all that, all this, that, and the other. But you're bespoken it to a much higher degree. And the most important thing, you're two fantastic scientists, and it's explaining it to the person who can understand it, because that's the hardest thing. You watch these programs, think, what the hell are they talking about? And I'm quite a clever fella and I can understand them. So, you've explained it very well, and it's very easy to follow. And the more easy to read things, the better. When we did our membership forms at the very beginning of the clubs, I got my young son to write them. I didn't write them because he wrote in a language everyone could understand. I would write in a language. So it's very good, and I'm very, very pleased, and I'm very pleased to be part of it. And it's creating something very special.
Thank you, David. And it's been brilliant to have you as an ambassador for Fitness Genes as well. We've just really enjoyed working with you and learning from you as well as a top entrepreneur in terms of what you built and that understanding you have. Just as you've said there, actually, the simplicity of being able to present people with what they need. And that's something I know you've always put into when you started off your health clubs, and thinking about it from that perspective in terms of, what went in there, where things went. I think that's what we need to do with this industry, because there's so much data. And I think that's one of the things that we realized. We were back in the start, we were doing the same. We were generating more and more data, and it overwhelms people. And what we need to do now is put the lens on it to say, okay, you can push all that science to one side. As you said, these are your top 6 supplements. These are your top 10 foods. These are the most efficacious exercises you could do, or consider these lifestyle habits, because they're the ones that are going to have the biggest impact on your unique risks. And I think that's where, as an industry, we need to get to. So we're not just, again, everybody's got the rings, everybody's got the wearables, we've got data coming out of our ears, and it's about turning it into lifestyle change, and how we do that. It's going to make the real
practicality.
impact.
You've got to be practicality. Yeah. I mean, it's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
That's
absolutely.
great. Great.
David, if I could ask you one final question, actually, just as an innovator in the fitness industry, as you've always been at the forefront of, the new sort of next sort of interesting thing. What do you see as being the next evolution in the fitness industry? We talked a little bit, I guess, around the longevity space. I mean, did you want to talk a little bit about your current projects? Is that something you'd be interested in mentioning? Or
I believe that the next step is already gone there. You've got all the spas and you've got all this and that and the other and all the treatments. But I think the DNA and the ability to tell them which machine to use more than the other. I think that's a really very important step. And on the units we're doing, which are sports gardens, we are definitely going to be putting in a nice little retail outlet and a testing outlet, and then build that up to be able to recommend the supplements, recommend diets. So it's an extra, and it's a very, very important extra. So being healthy is very, very important, but to be able to do things at 80, I'm 78. I can play golf as well as anybody still, and I'm pleased at that, because I don't have to go off the red tees. I don't have to pretend I'm I can hit it as far as they can, and they get upset about it, but that's because of my training. But now I'm at a stage that I can't do that. I've got to use the extras, and that's why I was very interested. So I think 2 or 3, 4 years from now, all the gyms and the health places will have this form of extras, and it's a very, very important extra.
David, thank you so much again for joining us and sharing your thoughts. It's been really fascinating seeing your results and hearing about why those are your personal priorities, and a little bit about what you'll be doing to follow up in terms of how you use that information. So I guess to summarise, Basel has been developed to turn complex science into clear, actionable steps that anybody can understand and use. And the idea behind it is, instead of giving you hundreds of insights, Basel's going to help you prioritise what really matters for you right now. If you're a Fitness Genes member and you'd like to experience Basel for yourself, keep an eye out. We're going to be launching Basel to members very soon. And please don't forget our crowdfunds. We're currently raising on Seeders Republic. We would be delighted to have your support, as with David's, to help us make personalisation of health more accessible to everybody and help more people live longer, healthier lives. Thank you very much for listening.